Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm so glad you could join me today. We're going to be making a gorgeous necklace today, and I'm very proud to say that we're going to be using a bag that was named after Misty Moon Designs. The collection was put together by Gina from Gina's Gem Creations. She also has a channel called GGC's Beginning Beaders, and she has a website which I'll link down below. But anyway, she put the bag together and released it a few days ago, and I got to curate it, so I'm very proud about that. I'm also very grateful to Gina for giving me that opportunity. And apparently it was a success because the bag sold out immediately. So I'm very grateful to those of you who purchased it, but I also feel really bad for those of you who missed out. But Gina always releases collections, and if you don't want to miss out on any of them, what I recommend that you do is go to her website and sign up for the treasure bag notifications. She has a list going on there, and that way when she launches a new release, you won't miss out. But having said all that, guys, don't worry, because if you don't have that bag, you can still make this necklace. I'm going to be leaving a list of all the materials down below in the description section of this video. So if you don't have a bag, you can go ahead and put the details into the Google search, and hopefully you can find the beads. They're not that unique, okay? You should be able to find most of them. And as always, I'll leave some timestamps down below as well, so you can skip forward to any portion of the video. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please think about doing so, because it helps my channel and it helps me to stay motivated to create more content for you. I make these tutorials to try to help you. It really helps me as well because I enjoy doing it. And the only thing that I ask in return is that you subscribe to my channel. So anyway, guys, I'm very anxious to jump into this tutorial, so let's go ahead, turn the camera around, and we'll get started. Before we get started, I want to give you a little glimpse of the Misty Moon treasure bag that I unboxed a few days ago. And boy, did I have fun opening up this bag. It was filled with gorgeous colors of violet, amethyst, orange, sea green, and a whole bunch of metals. There were so many items in this bag, it took me a long time to open it, but I had so much fun opening up this bag. And if you didn't get a chance to see it, I'll link it down below so you can go check it out. But anyway, I'm not going to bring out all the items today. I'm just going to pull out the strands that we're going to be using for today's project. So let me go ahead and get them. So here are the strands we're going to be using. As you can see, we have 3 different colors. We have a purple, we have this beautiful sea green, and we have this orange. These are the 8mm frosted round beads in a beautiful medium purple color. And these are also frosted, but these are 6mm in size, and the color is sea green. And these are also frosted round beads in a 4mm size, and the color is purple. And these are faceted bicone crystals in the color deep orange, and these are 6mm in size. So these are the beads we're going to be using. In addition to these beads, we're also going to use this pendant. As you can see, it's teardrop shaped in an antique bronze color, and it has a filigree pattern. It's 34 by 22 by 3.5mm in dimension. So we're going to be using this as a focal pendant. We're also going to be using this pretty leaf-shaped pendant. We're going to be using this glass pendant by itself on a chain for the upper tier of this necklace. Let me put it down here. The other things we're going to be using from the bag are these 4 items. We're going to be using the chain. We're going to be using the jump rings. We're going to be using these metal barrel beads. And we're also going to be using these cute little bronze-colored charms. You're also going to need some head pins. These did not come in the bag, so you're going to have to find your own head pins. We're going to be using some crimp tubes, and as you can see, these are by Bead Selection. They're a size 2. They're in a copper color because I didn't have bronze colored crimp tubes, but it really doesn't matter because we're going to be covering up with a crimp tube cover. Here are some additional items that we're going to be using. As you can see, I have a lobster claw clasp in a bronze color. I have 2 wire guards, and I have 2 crimp tube covers. I'll be using some Bead Selection bead stringing wire. As you can see, it's 0.018 inch thick. It's 49 strands, and it's in a gold color, as you can see. We're also going to be using some size 8/0 seed beads, and these are in a matte metallic medium bronze color. So let me go ahead and pull out the beads that we're going to be using for today's project. Now I'm going to be using some of these for the pendant, and that's what we're going to make first. So let me go ahead and pull out the beads that we're going to use for the pendant. We're going to be using one of these 8mm beads, one of these 6mm beads, 3 of these deep purple beads, and 2 of these orange bicones. Let me put this one aside. So these are going to actually hang below like this, okay? I've already played around with these, so I kind of know what I'm doing. Let me go ahead and arrange them so you can get some idea of what it's going to look like, okay? And then I'm also going to have some little charms hanging from the top. And for those, I will need 2 of these purple beads, okay? And I'm also going to be using a bunch of these little charms, these metal charms. But before we work on the top portion of the pendant, we're going to work on the bottom portion. So let me put these 2 aside. Here are my head pins. And now let me go ahead and thread some of these beads on. I'll start with a center drop. All right, so this is what the center drop's going to have. Pretty cute. I'm going to create a little kink here with my flat nose pliers. I'm coming in, leaving a little space above the bead so that I can make that bend, and just go ahead and bend it like this, okay? I'm going to cut the excess off, but I'm going to leave myself about 1/2 inch of wire because I'm going to make a big loop. I'm going to be using these round nose pliers, and the reason I'm using these, normally I use my Lindstroms, but these are different because the barrels are a little bit longer and they're a little bit wider at the top, so that allows me to make a bigger loop, okay? So let me come in here like this, make sure that it's flush, and then I'm going to go ahead and make a loop. You want to make sure that the loop is closed really well and that it's sitting on top of the beads like this, okay? So there's that one. Let's go ahead and assemble this next one. And that's what it's going to look like, okay? The orange bicone and the 4mm purple bead. And we're going to do the same thing. And the reason we're making big loops, guys, is because they need to fit where the filigree pattern is, okay? In those little spaces. There's quite a bit of distance between the opening of that filigree pattern and the bottom of the pendant, which is why you need a bigger loop, okay? I hope that makes sense. Let's go ahead and assemble the next one. So now this one's done. And now we're going to go ahead and attach it to the bottom of this pendant, okay? We'll start with the middle one. So we're just going to open up this loop like this. So now you need to find the center of the pendant, which would be this opening right here. So we're going to hook it into that space like this. Okay. And let's go ahead and close up the loop. So that's what we have so far, okay? Now I know what you're thinking. You're saying to yourself, that dangle is not in the center. Well, I have a solution for that, but I'm not going to show you just yet, okay? I'm going to hang these other two dangles first, and then I'll show you what the solution is. So let's go ahead and grab one of these, and we'll open up the loop. And I'm going to hang it in this opening right here, like this, okay? Let me go ahead and close this loop. So there's that one. Now let's go ahead and do this one. Open up this loop. And this time I'm going to hang it right in this little opening here. Okay? Let me close this loop. So here are the three dangles, and you can't even notice that this one isn't centered, but it's a little bit off center. So what I'm going to do is add a slight bend to the neck of this pin, a very slight bend. Let me show you what it looks like now. You don't even notice it, okay? I think it looks fine. And the only person who knows there's a slight bend there is you, okay? The person who wears this is not going to even notice it. But like I said, it really wasn't that noticeable, so you really don't need to bend the neck of that pin, okay? It's going to look fine whether you do it or not. So now we're going to work on the top portion of the pendant. So for these charms, I'm going to be using this other kind of pin. This is a very thin pin, okay, which means that I can do wrap loops. And the reason I want to do that is because I don't want these charms coming off, okay? So let me show you what we're going to do. You're going to thread on one of these 4mm beads like this. And now we're going to grab the wire at the top of the bead like this. Kink it like this. Switch to this portion of the wire, okay? Like this. Wrap the wire around the barrel of your pliers. Flip the pliers around and continue to wrap to the back, like this. Okay? Remove the pliers. And now I do want to do some wraps here, but I'm not going to do them just yet. I'm going to thread on some of these charms, and I'm going to thread on about 5 of them. Like this, okay? And now we're going to slip these charms into the loop. Just like that, okay? And now with some skinny pliers, I'm going to grab that loop like this. And now with these pliers, I'm going to grab the tail and do some wraps. Let me cut off the excess. And if you see a little end sticking out, you want to definitely squash it down. So this is what you should have, okay? You have a loop and you have 5 little charms hanging on the loop. Let me put this down. And now we're going to do the same thing with this one, but we're going to do something slightly different, okay? So thread your bead on like this. And you're going to go ahead and form a loop just like you did on the other one, okay? Like this, okay? But before you thread the charms on, you're going to thread this one onto the loop. So I'm going to thread the loop of this charm here into the one that I just formed, like this. And now I'm going to thread on my 5 charms. So here are my 5 charms, and I'm going to slide them into the loop. It's a little tricky, but do the best you can and just get them in there, okay? So here they are. As you can see, they're inside that loop now, okay? I'm going to grab this loop with my skinny pliers, like this. And with another set, I'm going to grab the tail and do a couple of wraps. I'm actually doing about 3 wraps. The number of wraps really doesn't matter with this charm, okay? And now let me go ahead and snip off the excess. And once again, you want to make sure you tuck in any little end, any little burr that's sticking out. So this is what you should have. It's a little bit difficult to see, but each one of these beads is on a pin. There are 2 loops and they're interconnected, and each loop has 5 metal charms, okay? So now to connect this to the pendant, we need a jump ring. Let me go ahead and remove these before we do anything else. Here are my jump rings. And I think I'm going to use a 6mm jump ring. Let's go ahead and open it up. And all you have to do is hook it onto one of these loops of the charms you created, and then connect the pendant to the jump ring like this. And now we'll close it up. You want to make sure that's closed really, really well, okay? And this is what it looks like, okay? Pretty cute. I love that tousled effect. That's really adorable. Now I'm going to reinforce this a little bit more because it's going to go on beading wire, so I'm going to add a second jump ring, okay? And I'm basically going to add it to the same spot. So once again, you want to hook it onto the loop of the charm that you made, like this, and then hook the other end of the jump ring through the loop of the pendant and close it up. So now we have 2 jump rings, which makes it a little bit more secure, okay? Let me remove the pendant so we can work on the strands now. We're going to need some 8/0 seed beads. We're going to also need these barrel beads. And I'm going to be using a couple of my rods. These are called magic rods. I carry them in my Etsy store, and I use these to create bead patterns. They also help with the alignment of seed beads, okay? So what I like to do is to thread the seed beads on and then offload them in multiples right onto the beading wire. I just find that's a little bit easier than trying to thread the beads onto the beading wire. To me, that's a little bit tedious because beading wire is kind of flexible, whereas these rods are rigid. So let me show you how I do this. Like I said before, I've already been playing with these, okay, so I kind of know what I'm doing. The magic rods come with 2 stoppers, 1 at each end, as you can see. And these are really great because they bring all the beads together and they hold them in place. So you start out by removing a stopper. And I think I'm going to start with one of these barrel beads, okay? And then one of these orange beads. So the pendant's going to actually sit here, and I'm going to repeat the same thing on the other side eventually, but let me just work on the left side of the necklace, okay? Now I'm going to add a series of seed beads, and I think I'm going to add between 8 and 10. I'm not sure exactly how many just yet. I'm thinking 8, but let me just see what 8 looks like. So this is 8, okay? And I actually think 8 is okay. I can always change it later if I think I need more than 8. So now I'm going to create a bead pattern, and I'm going to start by threading one of these purple beads, one of these sea green beads, one of these light purple beads, another sea green bead, and a purple bead. And that looks really cute. I like that. And now I'm going to add some more seed beads on this side of this pattern. Okay, so I'm going to add 8 seed beads. That looks cute. I like that. And now I'm going to add one of these orange bicones and another 8 seed beads. So this is what we have so far. That's adorable. I think that's going to work out fine. I don't think I need to add any more than 8 seed beads. I think 8's enough. So now I'm going to repeat this pattern again. So we're going to thread a purple bead, a sea green bead, one of these 8mm, another sea green, and a purple bead. And let's take a look. That looks really cute. Let me go ahead and thread some more seed beads. And now we need an orange bicone. And now I think I'm going to finish with another barrel bead at this end. And this will go on one side of the pendant, okay? And I think what I'll do is just use seed beads for the top portion of the necklace, okay? But I do have plans for a second tier, okay? And I'm going to explain that in a few moments. Let me go ahead and put a stopper on so I don't lose the beads. So this will be one side of the necklace. Let me go ahead and thread beads for the other side. I actually need more of these bicones. I need 2 more. So we actually need a total of 8 because I used 2 for the pendant, okay? And we need 3 for this side and 3 for the other side. So we have the barrel bead, and now we're going to thread on one of these bicones and then some seed beads. Okay, I'm putting my stopper on. So here's my second rod. Let me move these beads out of the way so you can see what I'm doing. So here's a little preview of what it's going to look like, okay? So this is the bottom portion of the necklace, and the top portion is going to have just seed beads, okay? So I'm going to thread 2 more rods with seed beads, and I don't know exactly how many I'm going to need. I'm just going to have to wait until I put the whole thing on beading wire, and then I can decide how many seed beads I want to add at the top. So let's go ahead and measure one of these lengths and see how many inches we have. It looks like we have about 6 inches, okay? So 6 plus 6 is 12. So it's good to know that we have 12 inches worth of necklace. So now it's just a matter of figuring out how long you want the necklace to be. Everybody's different, okay? We all have different preferences. I recommend anywhere between 18 and 22 inches, okay? But it's up to you. This whole thing is going to be on beading wire, and the top of the necklace is just going to have seed beads, okay? So depending on how long you want your necklace, you can thread as many seed beads as you want. I'm going to go ahead and thread a couple of rods with just seed beads, and then I'll decide later on, once I start threading everything, how long I want the necklace to be. So let me go ahead and thread 2 more rods with seed beads. Here are my 2 rods. Let me add some more seed beads. And I think I'm going to thread about 5 inches worth, so let me go ahead and do that. All right, let me see if I have 5 inches worth. It looks like I need a few more, so let me go ahead and thread a few more. Let's take a look now. That looks pretty good. It doesn't have to be exact, okay? Let me go ahead and put my stopper on so I don't lose the beads. And now I'm going to thread another rod exactly like this one. Alright, so I'm holding up my 2 rods to make sure I have the same amount of beads, and I think I need to remove one from this one. Let me go ahead and put the stopper on. And as you can see, I have 2 identical rods, okay, 2 identical lengths. Let me remove these seed beads. Now I'm going to need 2 more of these barrel beads because I'm going to be hanging the chain between barrel beads. Okay, so let me remove these 3 barrel beads. We're not going to need these. I want to keep this bead because I want to make a little extended chain, and this is going to hang off the extended chain. And this leaf bead is going to hang off an upper tier. That's going to be just chain, okay? And of course, here's the pendant, okay? So now we're going to thread on the bottom portion of the necklace. Let me go ahead and get the beading wire. I'm going to cut myself a generous amount because I don't know how long I want the necklace to be just yet, okay? And keep in mind that you're going to need 2 inches at each end to form the crimp. So I think I'm going to cut myself 30 inches just to be on the safe side. I'm going to be using an office clip to keep my beads from sliding off the beading wire. Let me go ahead and remove the beads from this rod first. So when you're working with rods, you have to hold onto this end and then pull the stopper off this end so you don't lose the beads. And then you simply offload from the rod directly onto your beading wire like this. And when you get to the seed beads, if you can grab the whole stack, that's even better. Like this, all at once. Now these bead patterns are a little tricky because you don't want to lose the pattern, okay? So what I do is I thread 1 and then I grab as many as I can between my index finger and my thumb, and now thread them all on at once like this. And because the rods hold the beads in alignment, you're able to do that, okay? And I can't tell you how useful it is for seed beads. So I'm just going to keep threading these beads. Okay, I've threaded this one on. Let me show you what it looks like, okay? So now I'm going to thread on the pendant. And you want to make sure that the charms sit on the front of the pendant, okay? Like this, okay? And now let's continue by threading these beads on. So once again, you want to hold on to this end of the rod, take the stopper off this end, offload from the rod onto the beading wire. Okay, I've threaded them on as you can see, and that looks really cute. I love it. I love the colors. So now I have to decide how long I want the chain to be, which is going to sit right above this tier here, okay? And here's the chain. So what I recommend that you do is to thread your chain, the last link, onto the beading wire like this. Bring it down. Let me move this out of the way. And this is how we're going to connect the chain. We're going to thread it onto the beading wire in between barrel beads. Okay, very easy. So now that we have that connected, we can kind of figure out how long we want the chain to be. And I'm thinking that I want this much. This pendant is going to go in the middle there. Okay, so before I do anything else, what I'm going to do is put a clip on this end so I don't lose the beads. And now I'm going to take this to the mirror, hold it up to my chest, and figure out where I'm going to cut the chain. So let me go ahead and do that, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back, and I've decided I want this length of chain, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and cut it, and then I'll tell you how long this one is, okay? Let me go ahead and do that. Let me see if these links are cut, and it looks like they are cut, so I'm simply going to open it up like this. Remove it. And now let me go ahead and measure it for you. It measures about 8 1/4 inches, okay? But it's personal preference. It all depends on how you want your necklace to look, okay? Keep in mind that this is going to go in the middle here, okay? And that's what we're going to do next. We're going to connect this pendant. I'm going to use a 6mm jump ring for that, okay? Now before we connect it, we need to figure out where the center of the chain is. So let me go ahead and remove the chain from the beading wire. Put my clip back on so I don't lose the beads. And now let me do this side. Remove the chain. Put the clip on. The best way to find the center of your chain is to thread some wire through the first link like this, and I'm using my rods to do that, but you can use regular wire or a head pin, okay? And then thread the wire or the rod through the last link like this, okay? And now let it drape and then figure out where the center is. And this is the center link right here, okay? So now we're going to open up this jump ring. And now we're going to hook it onto the pendant like this and hook it onto the middle link of your chain like this. Close it up. Make sure you close it really well. So here's my little leaf connected onto the chain. Now before you thread it onto your beading wire, you want to make sure that your links are sitting pretty flat and they're not twisted up, okay? Let's go ahead and thread it onto this link now, like this. Flatten out this side. And now let's thread the beading wire through this link. And now to hold that chain in place, here are my barrel beads. We're going to thread on a barrel bead on this end, like this, and one on the other end. So this is what we have so far, and now I'm going to continue threading seed beads until I get to the top of the necklace. Here are my 2 rods. Let me clip this end so I don't lose the beads. And now I'm going to go ahead and thread this end of the necklace. So once again, you want to put your fingers on the rod like this, slide the stopper off, offload from the rod, directly onto the beading wire like this in multiples. Okay, I finished threading the seed beads, as you can see. Now before I crimp it off and add the clasp, I'm going to go back to the mirror, hold it up to my chest, and see if that's the length that I want. I may have to either add more seed beads or remove seed beads. I don't know just yet, but let me go ahead and figure it out and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back, and I actually did remove some seed beads. I removed about 1.5 inches of seed beads from both ends, okay? I just felt like I needed to do that because by the time I add the jump rings and the clasp, it's going to make the necklace even longer. That's how I want to wear my necklace, but yours may be different depending on your preference and how you want your necklace to look. Let me just go ahead and measure this length of seed beads to give you an idea. So it measures a little bit more than 3¼ inches, okay? But like I said, the length is completely up to you, okay? Here's my lobster claw clasp. Here are my wire guards. Here are my crimp bead covers, and here are a couple of crimp tubes. Let's go ahead and remove this clip. We'll thread on a crimp tube like this. Okay, and now we're going to thread on this wire guard or wire guardian. So you're going to go in through one end like this, and then take the tail and go through the other end like this. Okay, and then thread the tail through the crimp tube like this, and thread everything down. Take out the slack. Make sure that the beading wire is sitting inside the channel of that wire guardian, okay? I like to close up the little legs of the wire guardian like this. And you do want to make sure that the beading wire is not crossed inside that crimp tube. It's a little difficult to tell, but if you hold it like this, you'll have better luck, okay? I like to use my 0 crimping pliers, and I'm going to use the first notch, which creates the little U shape, okay? So you're going to place your crimp tube inside the notch like this, and before you crimp down, separate your beading wire and pull on it to make sure that it's not sticking out of that channel, okay? You want it sitting inside, and then once you have everything separated, you can go ahead and crimp down like this, okay? Turn it on its side, and now there are 3 notches on your pliers. I usually choose the middle one. So you're going to place your crimp tube in there sideways, okay, in the middle notch like this, okay, and then squeeze, and that folds the crimp tube over, just like that. I always come in here and use the tip to squeeze it a little bit more so it's nice and tight, like this. And now I'm going to go ahead and snip off the tail. And now we're going to put on a crimp tube cover like this. To close my crimp tube cover, I like to use these crimping pliers, but you can use chain nose pliers if you want to. And you want to be very careful, okay? You don't want to dent that metal. And I always go around the whole bead just to make sure that it's nice and round. Like this, okay? And now let's slide everything down, make sure there are no spaces. You don't want the beads to be too tight though, you want them to be somewhat fluid like this, okay? Now before we crimp this end, I'm going to make an extender chain. And I'm going to use the same chain that I used for this upper tier, okay? This is the chain that came with the bag. And I'm simply going to snip off a piece that's about 1.5 inches long. But you can make your extended chain as long as you want, okay? I'm not even going to measure it, I'm just going to eyeball it. So there's my extended chain. I have a head pin and I'm going to thread the bead onto the head pin like this. And now I'm going to grab the wire at the top of the bead, okay? We're doing a wrap loop. And before you do your wraps, you're going to attach it to your extended chain. Like this. Grab the loop with a set of skinny pliers and grab the tail and do a couple of wraps. Snip off the excess and now tuck in any little end that's sticking out. So there's my extended chain. Now we're going to thread on a crimp tube, the wire guardian, going in one end and then taking the tail and going through the other end like this. Okay. Let's bring everything down to where the beads are. Check your necklace one more time, make sure there are no spaces. It's a good idea to let your strands drape, okay, to make sure there are no spaces anywhere. And now before you thread the tail through the crimp tube, you're going to thread on your extended chain and you're going to thread it into your wire guardian like this. Okay? So now we're going to take the tail and thread it through the crimp tube. And pull it. Once again, you want to take out the slack, so pull on the tail like this. Bring everything down. And now close up the wire guardian legs a little bit. Make sure your beading wire is not crossed inside that crimp tube. And now place the crimp tube inside the first notch of your pliers. Okay. Pull on it before you crimp down, and then go ahead and crimp down. And now you're going to turn it on its side and place the crimp tube inside one of the 3 notches, okay, like this. Squeeze it down and that folds it over. And then go ahead and tighten it up a little bit with a tip, like this. Come in as close as you can with your snippers and snip off the tail. You want to snip it off as close to that crimp tube as possible. And now let's go ahead and put on a crimp bead cover. Like this. Close it up. That looks pretty good. Now to attach this lobster claw clasp, I'm going to use a jump ring at this end. I think this is a 5mm size. Let me go ahead and open it up. Attach the clasp like this, and then attach it to your necklace like this, and close it up. And notice I didn't use any jump rings at this end. You don't necessarily need a jump ring, okay, because this clasp attaches to any one of these links, and that's nice because then you can wear it whatever length you want to, depending on the top that you have on, okay? But that's another choice that you can make, okay? If you wanted to add a jump ring, that's perfectly fine. And then your extended chain or no extended chain. It's completely up to you. I just thought I would show you a different option. And of course, you don't have to have an extended chain. That's another option as well, okay? But anyway, guys, that's the finished necklace. And I think it's adorable. It's really cute. I love the colors. I love how it drapes. And I love this upper tier. It really adds to the necklace. But you're not going to know how it looks until I put it on. So let me go ahead and do that, and I'll be right back. Well, what do you think? Do you like this necklace? I would really love to hear your opinion, so if you can leave some comments down below, I'd really appreciate it. The other thing that I would like to ask you is about the style. What kind of style do you think this is? Is it boho? Is it minimalist? Is it a combination of both? But anyway, whatever it is, I really like it. I hope you like it as well, and I hope you try to make it yourself. And please come back because I'll be publishing more videos using the contents from the Misty Moon Treasure Bag. Now, I don't publish them as quickly as I would like to because I like to edit my videos, and so that takes a little bit of time. But I promise you that I will be publishing them, so please check back. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I'm looking forward to seeing you again. Have a great day. Bye.